So, hi all. First of all, I want to say thank you for keeping up with everything. I know I'm throwing a lot of things at you over these weeks, and I do appreciate those of you who are um, participating, and hope you all are getting a lot out of this. My goal is just to have you prepared and ready for assessment when the time comes, when it's ready to happen. I was going to cover a little more about health and sanitation this week, but your director actually redirected me a little bit and said that some of you were really having questions about materials. So I thought we'd kind of take a step back and then we'll do that. So we'll cover materials, but what I'm going to do is just kind of go through the books, the Itters and Eckers books, and we'll talk about where materials come up and how many materials you might need. So I'm going to share my screen here, and you should be able to see the Itters book on the screen right now. And you're not going to see me looking directly at you because I'm using two screens here. So I'm going to be looking at the screen that has the Environment Rating Scale book on it. So I'm just going to be turning some of the pages here. Let's see. I'm just going to hit on anywhere that materials may come up and kind of do this informally, so bear with me. This is number 2 in the Itters book, Furniture for Routine Care and Play. So pretty much what this is saying, that there's enough furniture for routine care. It's sturdy and in good repair. Seats are comfortable and supportive, suitable for individual care of infants and toddlers. Some child-sized tables and chairs used for toddlers. If you look over here under 7, most of the tables and chairs used for toddlers are child-sized. So, and that's, at least 75% of what you have has to be child-sized. Furniture promotes self-help as children are ready. That's going to come into play when it's just an idea for children to be able to do as much for themselves as possible. So if you've got toddlers or young ones that are standing up on their own, that can help you by climbing chairs, reaching the sink, having those open shelves, those kinds of things. There should be some adult seating for use in routine care. And if you want to score even higher, it should be comfortable adult seating. So that would be adult-sized furniture. Okay, so relaxation and comfort, that's number 3 in your book. Just kind of gonna go here under the 5 column, and that's your cozy area. And just being sure your cozy area is protected from your active play. It's not meant to be used for wrestling and climbing on each other, but it should be separated from that. And what it says here for materials, many soft toys, accessible much of the day. Remember, that's one of the much of the days that we talked about. So they have to have many soft toys. And that's one of those things where you've got the asterisk. So you're going to come down here in notes for clarification, 5.3, to meet the requirement of many, there should be at least 10 soft toys and at least 2 per child if there are more than 5 children. So at least 10, no matter how many children are in the room. But if you have more than 5 children, then you've got to increase them by 2 per child. And your soft toys would be exactly what it says, your soft toys. It could be your soft-bodied dolls, your stuffed animals, soft blocks, things that they can squish with their hands. Okay, I think that's it for that. Room arrangement, I don't think there's anything about materials here. Oh, except it does say materials with similar use are placed together. So that's just making sure that your materials are separated by type in your room. Display for children. I'm going to kind of jump over here because, you know, you kind of want to, at least that's your minimal. So you want to come, you're shooting for at least a 5, if not higher. So display for children, and that's what's on your walls, what's around the room. It says many colorful, simple pictures, posters, and photographs. And by many, if I go down to the notes for clarification, this many does not require a specific number, but it's the overall impact. So what does it overall look like in the room? Is there many colorful, simple pictures? 5.2 says there should be mobiles or other colorful hanging objects for children to look at. There should be at least 2, and that's going back down here, notes for clarification. 2 examples of hanging objects visible to all children are required to give credit. And to give credit for a mobile or hanging object, it does have to be able to move in space. So it's not 3D, it's not flat to the wall. It has to hang and move in space. So it could be a mobile, it could be a hanging plant. A lot of times what I hear is that classrooms can't have anything hanging from the ceiling because of your fire marshal. And that's kind of how some fire marshals interpret it according to others. And if you do have that kind of a fire marshal, then you've got to be creative with what's hanging in space. So if you can't hang it from the ceiling, maybe you could get a plant hanger that attaches to the wall and hangs out from the wall, and then your plant or your mobile can hang down from that plant hanger. So that's just an idea for getting creative with that. If you want to score even higher, there should be photographs of the children and their families and their pets in the room. Okay, and there should be artwork done by toddlers displayed as well. Now, artwork is really only required if you've got children over 12 months of age in your classroom. So 12 months and over, you do have to require artwork. That doesn't mean that babies can't have artwork in the room, but if they do, there are guidelines to follow for that, which we can talk about at another time. Okay, moving on. Just gonna try to get to what I feel is important as far as materials. Most of it's gonna be with what's in your learning centers. So using books, number 14, and that's page 34 in the ITERs. To start out with, at least 12 appropriate infant toddler books, but no less than 2 for each child in the group. So at least 12. And there should be a wide selection. Okay, and that selection, there's an asterisk there, so we come down, notes for clarification. A wide selection includes books about people of varying races, ages, and abilities, animals, familiar objects, familiar routines. So that's your wide selection. Out of those 12 books, you should have some that cover these categories. Okay, I think that's all we should have to look at for books. Fine motor materials, this is your manipulatives. It says many and varied appropriate fine motor materials. So again, an asterisk coming down here. Many. It's a beautiful. Many means no fewer than 10 toys for a group of 5 infants or 15 toys for a group of 5 toddlers, and at least 1 additional toy for each child over that number in each age group. So no fewer than 10, okay? If you have more than 5 infants, then it's got to be at least 15, okay? And then it'll increase for toddlers as well. All right, and again, materials well organized, similar toys stored together. Okay, let's see. This is for active physical play, your outdoor time, or your indoor active play. It just says ample materials and equipment for physical activity, so children don't have to wait for 1 tricycle or 1 push toy. So there should be ample for that. Okay. Your art, let's see. It is some art materials used with children. And here it says once a week. Here it says daily. So it just kind of depends on how you want to score. And art materials, just be sure that they're non-toxic, safe, and appropriate. And you're going to put them out as they're available to use them. Okay, so these are infants and toddlers. So you just have to be careful of the kind of art materials that they have. The one thing that you should not have out is ditto sheets and coloring books. So right here, it says individual expression encouraged, and then children not asked to copy an example, and then it specifically says coloring books and ditto pages not to be used. So just being careful of that. And then over here, the variety introduced as children are ready. Okay, and then access is based on children's ability. I think someone has asked before about that. If art materials are, it's required to have an art center for infants and toddlers. And it's not saying that you can't have a center, an art center for infants and toddlers, but it does have to be safe and materials introduced as the children are ready. All right, so that's art, music and movement, many pleasant sounding musical toys and instruments. So many, jumping down to notes for clarification, many means at least 10, but no less than 1 toy per child based on your daily attendance. Okay, so that's your musical instruments. And just be sure that if you've got instruments that require batteries that make noise, those batteries have to be charged and ready to use. They are not going to count as musical instruments if the batteries are dead and they don't make any sound. Okay. Blocks. Now the thing to remember here is blocks are, this item is NA, not applicable if all children are younger than 12 months of age. But if you have even 1 child in your room that's 12 months of age and older, then you do have to have blocks in your room. And it says under 5, at least 2 sets of blocks to score 7, 3 sets of blocks. And they consider a set to be 10 or more blocks per set. And it's different types of blocks. So a set is a group of blocks that is designed to be used together. So it's your unit, at least 10 unit blocks, at least 10 of your soft blocks, at least 10 of your rubbery blocks. However you have, your sets are put together, they have to actually be a set of common blocks to use. Now you can't count things like Legos and waffle blocks and those kinds of things. Anything that fits together is going to be considered a manipulative or a fine motor material, no matter the size of it. So a block has to be has to have all of its sides and nothing that fits together. Now you also have to have accessories to go along with those blocks, and that's got to include your transportation toys, people, and animals. So your toy cars and things like that. And I believe it's 5 of each. Yes, right here. Variety means at least 5 from each of the categories. So your transportation, people, and animals. So you can have at least 15 of those all together. Okay, that's your blocks. Dramatic play says many and varied, age-appropriate dramatic play materials. Let me see if they clarify. Many, 3 to 5 of the examples on the list of materials. So the list is over here. So for infants, the list should be dolls, soft animals, pots and pans, toy telephones, those kinds of things. Toddlers should have dress-up clothes, house furniture, cooking and eating equipment, pots and pans, dishes, play foods, dolls, soft animals, those kinds of things. So a many and varied, 3 to 5 of the examples on this list. Okay. And again, organized by type. For toddlers, you should have some child-sized play furniture. So sink and stove, baby stroller, shopping cart, those kinds of things. All right, if you want to score even higher, make sure that your props represent some kind of diversity so that your dolls represent different skin tones. Your play food comes from different cultures. You could have laminated menus from different kinds of restaurants, those kinds, and then your props could be things that are for boys and for girls. So, and you don't have to look far off the grid for these kinds of materials. Excuse me. It could be nothing more than there are dresses and there are boys types, shirts, pants, bathing suits, pajamas for each gender. Excuse me again. Okay, dramatic play. Sand and water play. Again, this is one of these things, you don't have to have sand and water play if all of your children are younger than 18 months of age. But once that first child reaches 18 months of age, then sand and water would be required. And you can score depending on, you do according to what you want to score. So if you only have sand or water play once every 2 weeks, then you're going to score a 3. If you have it at least once a week, you'll score a 5. But if you have it every day, you'll score a 7. And then you need a variety of toys used for sand and water play. And if I come down here, let me see if they clarify. Okay, 5.2, examples of toys to use for sand and water: kitchen utensils, shovels, buckets, cars, trucks, floating toys, plastic containers. So things that are can be used for pouring. Now, I've had people ask me, what can you put in the sand table besides sand? And it actually can be anything that's pourable. So they have to be able to pour and measure and mix for that to count as sand or water. Nature and science, it's really, you want pictures, books, toys that represent nature realistically, and they have to be developmentally appropriate for them. They have to have outdoor experiences with nature, okay, at least once a week, or at least 2 times a week, I'm sorry. So get them out and talk about nature, the grass, the wind, the trees, the birds. They should have some daily experiences with living plants or animals indoors. So you should have plants in your room, or you should have a fish tank in your room, or somewhere in the center where every day they're going to see it, they're going to experience it, they're going to be able to talk about it. Okay. Science and nature. Hopefully you're not using, those of you that are in ITERS classrooms, you're not using TV, videos, or computers. They don't recommend that for children under 2. And then acceptance of diversity, many books, pictures, and materials showing diversity. And diversity includes different races, cultures, ages, abilities, and gender in non-stereotyping roles. So that gender would mean what we don't consider typical. So your female firefighter, your male dancer, things like that, thinking outside of the norm. And then having dolls representing at least 3 races, 3 different skin tones, facial features, those kinds of things. Let's see. Okay. Diversity. I think that's pretty much going to do it for materials for your ITERS rooms. Okay, so I'm going to also send you material checklists to go along with this, but at least you've seen where to find these things. So if you question this anymore, you can get out your ITERS book and you can look and you can see how I compared what was written on top with the notes for clarification. So that's where we get our material checklist from. Okay.